Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sister Sanctuary, where our mission is to inspire people with intentional, engaging, grace filled conversations that really put Christ at the center of culture, community, and the arts. I'm Kyra.
I'm Kenya.
And we're really so glad to have you join us. We look forward to this platform being a really safe space for young women and men to grow confidently in Christ while facing both challenges and triumphs. This podcast is really meant to inspire you, show God's love, and really encourage others in the faith. So we're so excited about what God will do through this podcast. And most importantly, in the lives of you, our listeners. So before we jump into our conversation, we'd love to share a little bit about who we are so that you can get to know us. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my girl, Kenya.
So, first, we're going to unpack that mission statement because that is a
Yes,
big part of who we are as a platform. And then, of course, we're going to
yes,
get into us as individuals. So, taking it
yes.
bit by bit through the mission statement, the first part that we have that's like key is inspire people. And that can sound really broad. It can mean a bunch of things. But for our podcast, basically, we're talking about encouraging people, uplifting people. The idea is hopefully by the end of an episode, you leave better than you came. And so that is the first chunk is inspire people. Beyond that, we also picked the three words that were important to both of us: intentional, engaging, and grace filled. Intentional, that's basically, I think I can speak for both of us when I say like we aim to be intentional in all areas of our
Mhm.
lives. But with the podcast, we're really wanting to pick topics that we have related to in some way that resonate with us, that we also feel like would
Mhm.
be fruitful conversations for other people. It's also about engaging. Honestly, is like kind of we went back and forth on this word a little bit, but you're never gonna come here and have an experience where it's like dull or we're dragging something along just for the sake of it. Like we aim for it to be an open conversation. So we want to engage people. It's not just a conversation where we're talking at y'all, we're talking with you all. There's
Yeah.
opportunities for y'all to engage with us also in the comments section to talk about your reactions to certain topics. So we want to engage, and that's such a big part of community building as well. And then lastly, grace filled. That's honestly one of my newer favorite words is just grace. What does it look like to like extend that to yourself and others? It could look like being patient with yourself,
Mhm.
self care and really taking the time you need to recharge. And also just how we move through the world. Like, how often are we trying to actually leave people better than we found them or help people or
Yeah.
just encounter them at eye level instead of kind of either looking down at them or up at them. Like, both of them are not really what we want to do. So that's my breakdown of the mission statement. Kyra, did you have anything you want to add?
Yes, just piggybacking off of your point, and really our mission about making sure that this is a space that is grace filled, that is motivated by who we are in Christ, and then also just who we are in terms of being intentional and things of that nature. I think one of our main goals as well is for you to feel comfortable. Definitely, we're just excited that you join us. We hope that you will subscribe. And we're really also excited about just getting into a little bit about who we are so that you can learn more about us. So, firstly, I want to just introduce our soft questionnaire that's really not that soft because we got a lot of really fun topics
They're
to
really good
discuss.
questions. It's nothing, no basic, no basic. These are
No
handpicked
basic.
actual articles. It's us Googling, it's us combing through the internet. And so I think these are
Yes.
some good questions.
I do too. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Okay. So, Kenya, I'm going to ask you, what is something or what do people misunderstand about you?
I definitely feel like there's times where I'm the type of person where I definitely interject things a lot. I'm a talker.
Mhm.
I process a lot. through talking it out. And
Hmm.
sometimes this means the people closest to me can hear a topic several different times in several different ways. And I think that sometimes what's
Hmm.
misunderstood is the fact that um, I just care very deeply about things as
Yeah.
opposed to like, oh, why are you bringing me this topic? We already talked about that. Or,
Yeah.
oh, why are we, talking about the same thing? um, I think I answered that question already. Like, I tend to sit
Hmm.
with things for a while. I do like process the best, like verbally and talking it out. Um, Usually people can tell if something is amiss with me if I'm quiet
Hmm.
for a long period of time. And then as a writer, I process also, by writing things out. So I'm usually someone that can't really, I don't want to say I can't hold water because I definitely can. I mean, to an extent. But I'm a verbal processor. And I think sometimes that has been mistaken as like, if my timing has not been the best, it can be mistaken as like, dag, like we already addressed that. Like it should be like kind of finished. And I'm one
Yeah.
to really sit with
I
things just because
understand.
I'm a deep thinker, a deep feeler, all of those things, which honestly can be, you know, uh I think it's just how I'm built and trying to allow, God to stretch me in different ways. But,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. And, it's about embracing that and figuring out what works best for me with dealing with that. What about you? What is something that people misunderstand about you? Yeah.
One thing I think for me is really, I'm kind of an introvert, and I really am not someone who's the first to go up to you, or, if I'm out and I like see people that I don't know, like I'm not the one gathering everyone around for conversations and things of that nature. So I'm really someone that kind of has to warm up in new environments. And so I think for me, that's something I definitely have been misunderstood a lot of times, especially growing up, of like being standoffish or like being too quiet and things of that nature. And I think really I just am just a person that's more, I like to really examine things a bit more and listen a lot more than I speak. And so that is just something that I learned about myself moving forward. But I definitely feel like it was, honestly an insecurity of like, okay, like is something wrong with me because I'm not loud and boisterous or whatever the case may be, So I'm
Nope.
definitely just thankful that, and God's help me to, be more comfortable in my skin, but also know that it's fine to, be an observer and actually listen, more and things of that nature too. Cause I feel like it helped me out a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, girl, like I just in agreement. I feel like there's so many nuances with this because a lot of people are misunderstood. And it's not that they, are may sometimes feel like they are intentionally doing what they're
Yeah.
doing is kind of wrong or whatever, but it's like they are honestly misunderstood. Like some people, it's not, oh, I just don't like this person, or oh, like I'm just not into art or whatever, but they may not be into that, but it's just kind of like, this is who they
Yeah.
are,
That's who I
so
am.
it's just really accepting those things. And I think moving on, we're
Oh, I'm
gonna
not gonna
get
do
a
the next
little
question.
bit.
I'm
Oh, go
gonna tell
ahead.
you the next question. Okay. And these are good questions again. This one speaks to our mission statement also of like community
Yeah.
by way of like church community, church culture.
Mhm.
So in your opinion, Kyra, what is one of the most important personality traits or strengths that someone needs to serve in the church?
And this is like another really, really good question that I feel like we never talk about. I think my two are faithfulness and just be in commitment. Which is kind of like they go in tandem. Honestly, they're the same thing or similar things, I should say. But I say faithfulness because as someone who has, serving the church, currently serving the church, and definitely has, witnessed others do the same, just being willing to show up and help where you can. I think one thing that I learned over the years is like it's not about the title that you have in church. It's not about how many times you're doing solos on stage, but it's really about what your heart posture is. And so for me, being faithful is extremely important, and commitment kind of goes in tandem with that. Like there will be times, and I know there were times in my experience and in the lives of those I've seen in Kenya and your experience in the lives I've seen, where it's like you really don't feel like showing up. You're like, okay, they want me to help
Nope.
out at this event on Saturday, but I want to go to the movies on Saturday. Like I wanted to take a trip on Saturday. So, those are times where it's like, obviously, it's great to have time for yourself. But if you know that you're committed to really serving and things of that nature, that you will make those sacrifices. And I think one verse that like, or I guess one thing that really
Ooh,
resonates with me is just
first.
knowing that you're working for the Lord and not for men. That
Mm,
is what you have to think about. I know a lot of times because there's so many personalities in church. So it's just really important
hello.
to know that your relationship is directly with God and what you do is to reflect what he has for you to do. And so
This is
sometimes it means
good.
like it's a sacrifice. Like it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows every Sunday or Wednesday or Saturday. And so I definitely wanted to ask you too, Kenya, like
Oh
how,
my
what are
goodness.
your thoughts on it? Or, if anything, I know that it's, been a journey as well, too.
It
So
is. It's an ongoing journey. I feel like everything you just said is its own episode. Like I feel like I'm gonna just be saying that this whole time. Like that's an episode. That's an episode. For me, it comes down to humility. I think that humility
yeah,
is the one of the foundational aspects of it. Everything becomes an extension of that. How you interact with
yeah,
people, the place from which you lead from, like what your heart posture is. Like again, to your point about um, service and serving the people and the body of God,
yeah,
is realizing being able to make the distinction of, you know, I'll use this analogy. Maybe it's not the best for church, but like there's only an audience of one. You're doing things in service of an audience
yeah,
of one, obviously the one being God. So for me, humility, especially when it comes to a trait in leadership positions within
yeah.
church, or let's just say any aspect of involvement, um, I think humility allows you to um, just be more authentic. It allows you to lead from a place of um, being empathetic of other
Yeah.
people's needs, to realize that it's actually not about you in the moment. And there's so many things that are freeing about that. Like, think about it, the rest
Mhm.
of the days out of the week that you're not in church, for example, are very much about you, or it can be very easy to make them about you. I need to get to work. I need to get to whatever social things I'm doing. I need to build time
Mhm.
to take care of myself, or maybe I'm going to the gym or whatever the case may be. Like
Mhm.
it is very, we live in a culture that is very like, what are you doing for you? Like,
Yeah.
how is that you become the center of your universe basically? In a church, quite the opposite. So I think humility is such an important thing for people to have. I'm obviously like saying that this is a trait that I think we should all have in general.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm growing in this area. I think a lot of just kind of dying to self in a real way every day of like, this is
Mhm.
what I wanted to do versus like, this is what it looks like to be obedient. And I think humility puts you in position to actually serve by way of being obedient,
Yeah.
and kind of having your hand and your heart open to like what God is asking you to do. So
So
that would be
true.
how I answered that. Of many, many other traits that are important, of course, commitment, and willingness also. Um, as our last questionnaire for the day, I want to ask you, what is your favorite movie and how does it inspire you?
I love this transition. So, my favorite
I tried.
movie is called. It's actually was made like early '90s. It's called The Joy Luck Club, and it's really based on multi generational storyline with four mothers and their daughters. And so the movie has a lot of flashback scenes of from times when they were children and just meaningful experiences they had. Some that were pleasant, some that weren't. And so just watching it, it just really brought up so many emotions for me. And I think one of the reasons is because knowing that we all go through our own circumstances and knowing that we do, have opportunities to grow throughout our lives. Like I know, there are so many scenes in that film where the person is a child at that point, but they're really experiencing something that's like, maybe challenging or new, and they're having to really navigate that. And so it was just really empowering to watch, to be honest with you. And I also say like inspiring for me just because it made me think so much about the women that are in my life, who have gone through a lot of what I'm going through now, but also and then some. And so it's just really inspiring to know that you have, you know, a community of people to really rely on, but also just growth. You know, growth happens in every stage of life. So that's really how I would answer
It's
that.
beautiful.
How what I'm thinking about it too. And Kenya, like I gotta ask you, like I'm telling you that, you know, I know that there's so many films out there. So I was like, what is your
So
favorite
many.
one that you feel like speaks to most, or just at least it inspires you too? Yeah.
Yeah, I will first say we definitely need to do like a Hulu watch party to actually see
Yes.
Boiler Club. Everyone that has ever encountered me and known me for long enough has probably heard me bring up my favorite movie at some point, most likely more than once, which is The Sandlot. Um, the Sandlot is the gift that keeps on giving. The Sandlot is the
Ah,
movie I can turn on
uh,
at any place at any time and instantly feel like I'm at home. I feel like that is in a nutshell how I would describe a favorite movie in general. And a lot of it inspires me. Obviously, like I said again, like this could be its own episode, okay? But when I think about what inspires me about The Sandlot, it's something that for me as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, it has influenced a lot of my storytelling, which is larger than
mhm,
life stories that can take place in a small hometown. So
mhm.
there's an adventure that these boys go on, this group of friends go on, and they are unpacking a lot of things like friendships, but also like fear. I think what's inspiring
Mhm.
is one of the things they realize is the thing that they have been afraid of, this dog that they've made to be like a monster in their head, is actually, once they stand up to it and work up the courage, they realize,
Yeah.
like, wow, like that's, this was nothing. Like, this was a dog the whole time. When we made this into a whole thing, they thought they was going to die. They thought that he was going to have a fragmented relationship with his stepdad. Like, it was a lot that they worked it up to be, only for it to not be, so bad after all. And I think how many
Yeah.
times throughout life do we do that where we see something that seems like it's going to take us over, and then when
Mhm.
we work up the courage, sometimes it's like, dag, like I'm letting that roll off my back. As a segue into our graduation topic, um, we're speaking of graduation season in terms of
Yeah.
like the change of life, change of
Yeah.
seasons,
Yeah.
milestones.
Yeah.
My tie-in or my attempted tie-in from the Sandlot is like they reached a milestone once they were able to really stand up to this beast, the dog.
Mhm.
They were able to
Mhm.
step into a new season of like living fearlessly, basically living without fear. Their relationships, their friendships were deepened and intertwined. And I think right now, as we're seeing people graduate, whether it's from college or grad programs,
Yeah.
things like that, the pathway to doing that has a lot of challenges. It's things that
Mhm.
when you turn the tassel, people don't really see the late nights that you're studying or the times that you're like rushing to like finish your food or whatever because you need to go to
Yeah.
an office hour to like really make your case to a professor of like, hey, I'm doing the best I
It's
can, but I
real.
need a little help, or can I retake this
Yeah.
test, or like nobody's really seeing the sacrifices that go into an achievement like that. Um,
Yeah.
but they matter, and I think I felt like this would be a good topic for us to put into our first episode, just because this is a new change of season for both of us, like our first
Yeah.
podcast, entering a new realm where there's like uncertainty and trying to
Yeah.
navigate that. So, yeah, I wanted to see how we unpack this from not only how does graduation kind of affect us
Mhm.
as a whole, but also like what does
Mhm.
it look like personally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. So,
Yeah.
any thoughts on it?
Yes. So, I would say number one, like, I think this season that we're in of graduation, literally, because, as we're here, like, we're like in mid May. And so I think number one, what really stands out to me about the season, and I feel like is repeated for me every graduation, but also witnessing others graduate and others
Yeah,
reach their milestone, is really endurance, faithfulness,
that's good.
trust in the process. Like I know, I actually attended a recent graduation party, and this great, brilliant young woman, she just got her JD, and that
Dope. I don't even
this
think you told me
weekend,
that.
and
That's
she
fire.
is a single mom with 2 kids. And so it's just
Dope.
crazy seeing how God has been so faithful in the process with her, of allowing her to just stay on top of things. But it's a process and it's a lot of work. And I know, just from even not even her program, but for others that I've witnessed graduate, me graduating, other, friends graduating, it's like, it's really, when you walk across that stage, or even when you get your degree in the mail, it's like that shows a level of endurance. A lot of these programs are multiple years long, and you don't really have, a lot of time of breathing in between, of like trying to, get through it. And so there's a lot of, I feel like there's graduation season, it just brings me so much joy, because it just reminds me of the finish line in a way. And I think emotionally too, just thinking about our podcast and just kind of going into new seasons and things of that nature, I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited. I just have excitement in my heart, because I just feel as though, when you're going into a new season, it might be like, oh, it's uncertain, it's, you're nervous and things of that nature. But the
Right.
reality
Yeah.
is, it's
What
like,
am I
it's just a
doing?
new opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
new opportunity to really just shine, through, and just exercise, the endurance that you already built up. And so it's just, I'm just excited. I'm really excited about this season, and really just witnessing others reach their goals. Like, it brings me so much joy. So that is me, with
Yeah.
graduation. It's
I love
long
it.
too.
Even spiritually, I think more recently I've been feeling like I've been in um a newer point of just my spiritual walk. I was telling my sister the other day that I felt like I had experienced like a graduation of sorts, after
Hmm. Yeah.
this one particular Sabbath I had
Mhm.
basically in the middle of it. And as you know, part of like our praise team, the music that day was just very powerful. And I became emotional, as I do from time to time. And my option in the moment of like being overwhelmed by that, and crying and stuff like that, was like, oh, like, do I want to actually let this actually fall, or do I want to like,
Yeah.
quickly, hide it essentially? And I feel like we both can relate. I think everyone knows that sometimes it's harder to like stop yourself from crying. It's like
Yeah.
almost like this feeling in your chest of like
Yeah.
tightness and stuff like that. And so it's like either way, it's hard. Like surrendering the fact that like it's sometimes it's hard to cry sometimes and be seen crying, but it's also hard to try to stop yourself from crying. So which one?
Yeah.
In that case, that day I had to really just surrender. Like, listen, like this is where I'm at. It was
Yeah.
an opportunity for like my church family to surround me and comfort me,
Mhm.
and I just was like, you know what? I feel like I kind of turned the tassel a little bit on like just maybe I'm not a baby Christian anymore. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm an
Yeah.
adult Christian, but like maybe I'm ready for like solid food in terms of being in a different space where I'm able to actually be obedient and let God like have his way and like even my thoughts. That has been big. It's like, and I have to control my thoughts. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, I think graduation is like graduation season. Congrats to all the grads. If you're watching this and you graduated or know somebody that did, hats off to you. The best
Yes.
is still yet to come. Um, and I love that. I love that as a first episode topic as well. Bringing us to our close, as we talked about our podcast already.
Yes.
We want to share more about ourselves too. Hope there's been nuggets
Mhm.
throughout where y'all have gotten to learn a little bit about us, but also we want to dive more into our testimonies. And so, Kyra, I want to throw it to you. Whatever you'd like to share just about what God's been doing in your life.
Mhm.
Whether you want to take us from diapers to now or what's happening in this current season, whatever's on your heart.
Yes. So I think I will do a condensed one just because I've got a lot of history, I feel like with God, but and more so in the sense of what he's just been trying to teach me for all these years. But I think one thing I will say is this. I really before coming to Christ, so taking it back to like preteen age and things of that nature, really I grew up in the church. I enjoyed going with my family, learning about God. I got saved really young, but I really didn't start to live for him until I reached my teen years. And I feel like really my teen years were where I was the most impressionable, to be honest, just because I was exposed to more things and I had, more experiences and things of that nature. But I think, one thing that God really has taught me is just the importance of being set apart. And I remember just, being in a phase where it's like, God, like I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. Like I feel weird. This is not okay. Like I want to be popular and things of that nature. And, just having those voices in my head, like almost drowned who God was to me out. And so really it took me just kind of rededicating my life to Christ to get me to the point of saying, okay, God, like I want to actually trust you and have a relationship with you. And so through that experience, just even thinking about after graduating high school, going to college and things of that nature, and through and during college, even, it was a lot of just molding that he had to do with me, a lot of unlearning that I had to do as well in terms of the way that I thought about the world, the way that I saw myself, the way that I saw myself in church community, and the way that I saw myself in the world. And so, he's done a lot of stripping to me, but it's really molding. And so I think one thing that really sticks out for me and just my relationship and walk with Christ is the importance of dying to yourself, especially just letting go, which we touched on this earlier, but just of your emotions in a sense, to grasp on to what he has for you. So I think that's just, one of the beautiful gifts that I've received so far in my walk. And I'm still a work in progress. There's still days where it's like, God, like what is going on? But I'm really trying to continue to just be on this journey with him. So it's this year, I will take it as it's definitely been a year of developing patience and just developing more confidence in the face of that of uncertainty. So that is kind of where God has me as of right now. So just looking forward to what he will do in the future. And definitely Kenya, like I know just piggybacking again, and I definitely just want to you to share too as well, girl. Like, what is God doing in your life? What is going on? What is he about to do? Like, what has he done? All those things. So,
Yeah, that was so beautiful. That was so, so good. Ah, man. I think when I think about um, my condensed testimony as well, I think of a couple things. I think of faith over feelings. I think of
yeah.
let go and let God. Starting from, being much younger, I feel like what I have been constantly, the through line of what I've been unlearning and unpacking in my relationship with God has been this idea of unconditional love. I think from a young
Mm-hmm.
age, I was able to, be exposed to church and also like going to Christian schools and things like that. And I don't think that it's anything that anyone ever like pulled me aside and like told me, but I think it
Yeah.
was very easy for me to conflate performance and earning love as opposed to unconditional love, and that there's this type of
Mm-hmm.
love that comes from, oh, I did really well and therefore I now am embraced, or oh, like I was seen doing this thing and now I'm embraced, or even like maybe I had a talent that was recognized and so that
Mm-hmm.
now gives me value. And it's been about really detaching from those things and realizing
Yeah.
that God is not asking anybody to be perfect. He's not requiring me to check off the list of things that we kind of have made um, Christian or like purity culture or any of these things. It's like it's not a
That's
really
good.
about the checklist of things. For me, it has been learning that I don't have to perform for God. Like I
Yeah.
can be myself. It doesn't have to look like, oh, I said all the right things or I did all the, I went through the motions, so to speak. Like God is not asking us to come to him already perfect. Like we're supposed to walk that out
Yeah.
and trust that when we inevitably have mistakes and flaws that he already knew that that
Yeah.
was going to happen and he's walking alongside
Yeah.
with us. So for me, in my in my life as a creative and as a storyteller, it's been it's been a season of really learning how to pivot my thoughts into how do
Mhm.
I want to use my gifting? How can I use it for the kingdom? Is it about me or is it about God? Is it about other
Yeah.
people? And then where am I drawing my identity from? If I'm drawing
Yeah.
it from like I got this degree or I,
Yeah.
I started this side venture or I put out this project. Like those things are very fleeting and it also can fool you into like I have to achieve in order to be worthy of something and it's just a vicious cycle. So I think I
Mhm.
would tie things together by saying like my testimony is one of really discovering true identity and freedom in God, learning where to actually draw my source of value and worth from, and letting it not be attached to other
Wow.
things into the world. So yeah, that would be my testimony in a nutshell. I feel like, again, there's so much more for us to dig into, also, that will also come across in different episodes, too.
Yes.
Um, but
Yeah.
for the time being, that is our episode one. We're so excited.
Yes.
Obviously, like, even trying to cut it off here, there's so much more that could be said and will be said. We're happy to have you all along for this ride with us. So thank you for
Yes.
joining us today. We're glad that you're part of this community and you can continue to engage with us and be part of this community here on YouTube as well as Instagram. And so you will see the information on how to do that.
I just am so thankful to you all just for sitting with us and listening. We hope that you enjoyed this podcast to the fullest, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So say grace field, and we will see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.